What happens when a 12-year-old black girl walks into a room full of decorated military officers and demands a chance to prove herself on their shooting range? At Fort Braxton, Maya Johnson's simple request was met with laughter, mockery, and open prejudice. But in just a few minutes, she would silence every doubter, shatter every record, and teach the entire base a lesson they'd never forget. This is the true story of how courage, determination, and legacy can break barriers and rewrite history. If you believe in the power of perseverance and want to see how one girl turned humiliation into triumph, watch till the end. And don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories that challenge the impossible. At Fort Braxton Military Base, the atmosphere inside the Officers Club was always one of tradition, authority, and unspoken rules. The polished mahogany tables, the glint of crystal glasses, and the low hum of conversation among decorated officers created an environment where hierarchy was never questioned. On this particular day, the air was thick with the scent of cigars and the echo of laughter as senior officers gathered for their usual midday respite. The club was a place where only the most respected members of the military community felt at home, and outsiders, especially children, were rarely seen, let alone heard. Into this world of rigid formality stepped Maya Johnson, a 12-year-old girl whose presence immediately drew curious and skeptical glances. She wore her father's Medal of Honor around her neck, the ribbon faded but the medal itself gleaming with the weight of sacrifice and valor. Her posture was impeccable, a testament to the discipline instilled in her by her late father, Sergeant David Johnson. In her small hands, she clutched a yellowed envelope, its contents unknown to the officers but clearly precious to her. Maya's request was simple, yet it carried the gravity of her grief and determination. She asked for permission to use the base's shooting range on the anniversary of her father's death, hoping to honor his memory by practicing the skills he had taught her. The room, however, responded not with understanding, but with derision. Colonel Marcus Steele, a man known for his strictness and sharp tongue, found the request amusing. His laughter, loud and dismissive, set the tone for the rest of the officers. They joined in, their voices rising in a chorus of mockery that reverberated through the club. The officers' comments were laced with condescension and prejudice. Some questioned why a child would want to handle a weapon, while others made snide remarks about her gender and race. Major Thompson muttered that children should be playing with dolls, not guns, and Captain Williams added that little girls belonged in school, not on a military base. The laughter that followed was not just at Maya's expense, but at the very idea that someone like her could belong in their world. What the officers failed to see was the depth of Maya's resolve. Her father had not been an ordinary soldier. He was a legend among those who truly understood the art of marksmanship. For 6 years, David Johnson had quietly held the unofficial record for best shooter on the base, a fact whispered among the most experienced soldiers, but never officially acknowledged. Maya had been his secret apprentice, training with him every afternoon after school and on weekends. Their sessions were more than just lessons in shooting. They were moments of connection, trust, and the passing down of legacy. 3 years earlier, when the pain of her father's loss was still raw, Maya had made a silent promise at his graveside. She vowed to honor his memory not just with words, but with action. Every day since, she had dedicated herself to mastering the skills he had taught her, driven by a desire to prove that his legacy lived on through her. The yellowed envelope she carried contained the last letter her father had written to her, filled with encouragement and advice, and it served as both a talisman and a source of strength. Despite the humiliation she faced in the officers' club, Maya stood her ground. Her voice, though steady, betrayed a hint of the nerve she felt. She repeated her request, citing the proper documentation and approval she had obtained from the Military Family Affairs Department. Her preparation was meticulous, and she had ensured that every regulation was followed. Yet her attention to detail only fueled the officers' amusement. Major Peterson, sitting nearby, nearly choked on his drink at the thought of a child knowing military regulations. The officers' laughter masked a deeper discomfort. Some of them, though unwilling to admit it, recognized a familiar determination in Maya's eyes, a look they had seen in the faces of soldiers who had survived the worst of battles. For a brief moment, the room's mood shifted, and a few officers fell silent, sensing that there was more to this girl than met the eye. Still, Colonel Steele remained unmoved. He dismissed Maya's request with a wave of his hand, insisting that the shooting range was no place for children and that she should leave such matters to the adults. Maya's cheeks burned with embarrassment, but she refused to let their words break her spirit. She drew on the lessons her father had taught her about composure and resilience when faced with doubt and prejudice. He had told her, the best response was to let your actions speak for you. In that moment, Maya resolved to prove herself, not just for her own sake, but for the memory of her father and the promise she had made to him. The stage was set for a confrontation that would challenge the very foundations of the base's traditions and prejudices, and Maya was ready to meet it head-on. Colonel Marcus Steele, still basking in the laughter of his fellow officers, decided to turn Maya's request into a spectacle. Rather than simply denying her, he proposed a challenge that he believed would end in her public embarrassment. The terms were clear and designed to be nearly impossible for a child. Maya would be allowed to use the shooting range only if she could hit at least 3 out of 10 targets set at a distance of 50 meters. If she failed, she would have to promise never to trouble the officers with such childish fantasies again. The officers, eager for entertainment, quickly agreed to the colonel's terms, their anticipation growing at the thought of watching a young girl fail in front of an audience. Maya accepted the challenge without hesitation, her voice steady and her eyes unwavering. The officers, interpreting her composure as naivete, exchanged knowing glances and whispered bets about how quickly she would give up. Some speculated she would burst into tears before even firing a shot, while others joked that she might not be able to lift a weapon. The group's confidence in her failure was absolute, and their comments grew bolder as they prepared to move to the shooting range. As the officers and Maya made their way through the corridors of Fort Braxton, the mood was one of smug anticipation. The officers walked in a tight group, their uniforms crisp and their medals gleaming, while Maya followed a few steps behind, her presence a stark contrast to the imposing figures ahead of her. The men's voices carried easily through the halls, their taunts and dismissive remarks echoing off the walls. They speculated about how quickly she would give up, some even placing informal wagers on whether she would cry or faint at the sound of the first shot. What none of the officers realized was that Maya was no stranger to the shooting range. For 3 years, she had been quietly training in the early hours of the morning, long before the base came to life. A maintenance worker, himself a veteran who had served alongside her father, would unlock the range for her, understanding the importance of honoring a fallen comrade's memory. These secret sessions had become a ritual for Maya, a way to keep her father's teachings alive and to channel her grief into something purposeful. Each visit to the range was a step toward fulfilling the promise she had made at his grave. The officers, oblivious to Maya's dedication, continued to treat the upcoming challenge as a joke. They discussed which weapon would be the most humiliating for her to use, and debated whether she would even be able to load it properly. Their laughter grew louder as they imagined the scene that was about to unfold. Some of the younger soldiers, hearing about the challenge, decided to follow the group, eager to witness what they assumed would be a brief and entertaining failure. Maya, meanwhile, focused on her breathing and recalled the countless hours she had spent perfecting her technique. Her father's lessons echoed in her mind. The importance of discipline, the value of patience, and the necessity of blocking out distractions. She remembered the way he had taught her to control her nerves, to find stillness in the chaos, and to trust in her training. These memories gave her strength as she walked behind the officers, her resolve hardening with every step. Upon reaching the range, the officers gathered around a table displaying an array of standard-issue firearms. Colonel Steele, still intent on making a spectacle of Maya, suggested she choose the lightest weapon, implying that anything heavier would be too much for her to handle. The officers' comments continued, each one designed to undermine her confidence and reinforce the belief that she did not belong there. The group's laughter was punctuated by sarcastic applause and exaggerated predictions of her imminent failure. Despite the mounting pressure, Maya remained composed. She surveyed the weapons with practiced eye, her mind already calculating which would best suit the challenge. The officers watched her with a mixture of amusement and disbelief, convinced that her calm demeanor was nothing more than bravado. Some of the more experienced soldiers, however, began to notice the precision in her movements and the quiet confidence she exuded. A few exchanged uneasy glances, sensing that the situation might not unfold as predictably as they had assumed. The challenge, intended as a means of humiliation, had become a test of character and skill. The officers, blinded by their own prejudices, failed to recognize the depth of Maya's preparation and the strength of her motivation. For Maya, the challenge was not just about proving herself to the men who doubted her. It was about honoring her father's legacy and keeping her promise to him. The stage was set for a confrontation that would not only test Maya's abilities, but also expose the limitations of the officers' assumptions. As the group prepared for the demonstration, the atmosphere shifted from one of mockery to a tense anticipation. The officers, still confident in their expectations, failed to see the quiet storm gather in the heart of the young girl they had so readily dismissed. The outcome of the challenge would soon reveal not only Maya's true capabilities, but also the power of perseverance in the face of prejudice. The shooting range at Fort Braxton was a place of discipline and precision, where soldiers honed their skills and reputations were forged. On this day, it became the stage for a challenge that had captured the attention of the entire officer corps. The array of standard-issue firearms laid out on the table represented the tools of the trade, each one a symbol of the military's exacting standards. The officers, still convinced of Maya's impending failure, watched with a mixture of amusement and skepticism as she approached the table. The selection of a weapon was meant to be another opportunity for ridicule. Colonel Steele, with a smirk, recommended the lightest pistol, suggesting that anything heavier would be too much for a child. The officers' comments, dripping with sarcasm, filled the air. They speculated about whether Maya would even be able to load the magazine or handle the recoil. Some joked that she might drop the gun or fumble with the safety, while others placed bets on how many shots she would miss. The atmosphere was thick with condescension, the group's confidence in her failure unshakable. Maya's choice of weapon, however, was deliberate and meaningful. She selected a Glock 19, the same model her father had used to teach her the fundamentals of marksmanship. The familiarity of the pistol brought a sense of comfort and focus, grounding her in the lessons she had learned over years of secret training. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency as she checked the magazine, inspected the chamber, and tested the trigger. Each motion was executed with the precision of someone who had performed the routine countless times, a detail that did not go unnoticed by a few of the more observant soldiers. Among the onlookers was Sergeant Rodriguez, the base's shooting instructor and a veteran who had served alongside Maya's father. His experience allowed him to recognize the signs of true skill, and he watched Maya's preparations with growing unease. The fluidity of her movements, the attention to detail, and the calm focus she displayed were all hallmarks of a seasoned marksman. Rodriguez's concern was met with dismissal by Colonel Steele, who insisted that Maya should be treated like any other soldier facing a test. The colonel's refusal to provide additional supervision or support underscored his belief that the challenge was nothing more than a formality. The officers' laughter and taunts continued, but Maya remained unaffected. She drew strength from her memories of training with her father, recalling his advice to block out distractions and trust in her abilities. The weight of the Medal of Honor around her neck served as a reminder of the legacy she carried and the promise she had made. Her focus sharpened, and a transformation began to take place. The nervousness that had accompanied her into range faded, replaced by a steely determination that radiated from her posture and expression. The challenge itself was straightforward: 10 shots at a target 50 meters away, with the requirement to hit at least 3 to earn the right to use the range. The officers, still convinced of her failure, gathered behind the firing line, their whispers and laughter creating a wall of doubt. Some of the younger soldiers, drawn by the spectacle, joined the crowd, eager to witness what they believed would be a brief and humiliating display. Maya's preparation was meticulous. She adjusted her stance, aligned her shoulders, and controlled her breathing, each step a reflection of the discipline instilled in her by her father. The lessons of patience, focus, and resilience guided her actions, allowing her to block out the noise and center herself on the task at hand. The officers' jeers became background noise, irrelevant to the challenge she faced. The atmosphere at the range shifted as Maya readied herself. The initial sense of mockery gave way to a growing sense of anticipation. Some of the more experienced soldiers began to sense that something unusual was about to happen. The precision of Maya's movements, the calm in her eyes, and the confidence in her posture all hinted at a level of skill that defied the officers' expectations. The challenge, intended as a means of humiliation, had become a test of character and ability. Maya's resolve was unshakable, her motivation rooted in a desire to honor her father and prove her worth. The officers, blinded by their own prejudices, failed to recognize the depth of her preparation and the strength of her spirit. The stage was set for a demonstration that would not only test Maya's marksmanship, but also challenge the assumptions and biases of everyone present. As the final preparations were made, the tension in the air became palpable. The officers, still confident in their predictions, failed to see the quiet storm gathering in the heart of the young girl they had so readily dismissed. The outcome of the challenge would soon reveal not only Maya's true capabilities, but also the power of perseverance and the importance of never underestimating someone based on appearances. The moment of truth arrived at the Fort Braxton shooting range, where the air was thick with anticipation and skepticism. The officers who had spent the morning ridiculing Maya now watched with arms crossed and smirks on their faces, certain that the challenge would end in her defeat. The rules were simple: 10 shots, 50 meters, and a minimum of 3 hits required to earn the right to use the range. The crowd of soldiers and officers, drawn by curiosity and the promise of an easy spectacle, settled in to witness what they believed would be a brief and embarrassing episode. Maya's approach to the firing line was marked by a calm that seemed out of place for a 12-year-old facing such pressure. The lessons from her father echoed in her mind, guiding her every movement. She adjusted her stance with military precision. Feet planted firmly, shoulders squared and grip steady. Her breathing slowed, each inhale and exhale measured and controlled, blocking out the whispers and laughter that still lingered behind her. The weight of her father's Medal of Honor rested against her chest, a silent reminder of the promise she carried and the legacy she aimed to honor. The officers' confidence in her failure began to waver as they observed the meticulous way she prepared. Some exchanged uneasy glances, noticing the professional manner in which she handled the Glock 19. The more experienced soldiers in the crowd recognized the signs of a practiced shooter: the way she checked her sight alignment, the subtle adjustments for wind, and the unwavering focus in her eyes. The initial amusement in the air gave way to a growing sense of curiosity, as the possibility of an unexpected outcome began to dawn on a few. With the range ready and the target set, Maya began her sequence. Each shot rang out with a crisp, controlled rhythm, the sound echoing across the field. The first bullet struck the target with a metallic ping, followed by a second and a third in quick succession. The officers' laughter faltered, replaced by a stunned silence as they realized that Maya was not only hitting the targets, but doing so with remarkable accuracy. The cadence of her shots was steady, each one delivered with the confidence of someone who had practiced this routine countless times. As the shots continued, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The crowd, once eager for entertainment at Maya's expense, now watched in disbelief. The officers who had mocked her began to exchange nervous glances, their certainty eroding with every successful hit. The sound of each bullet striking the center of the target became a drumbeat of vindication, erasing the doubts and prejudices that had filled the air moments before. Sergeant Rodriguez, the base's shooting instructor, observed the unfolding demonstration with a mix of admiration and awe. Through his binoculars, he tracked each shot, noting the tight grouping and the consistency of Maya's aim. The realization grew that her skill surpassed even that of her legendary father, a fact that left him both proud and astonished. The officers, sensing the gravity of what was happening, fell into a tense silence, their earlier bravado replaced by a growing respect for the young shooter. By the time Maya fired her 10th and final shot, the transformation in the crowd was complete. The officers who had been so quick to judge now stood in stunned silence, their expressions a mix of shock and reluctant admiration. The tight cluster of bullet holes at the center of the target spoke for itself, a testament to Maya's dedication and talent. The challenge, intended as a means of humiliation, had become a showcase of excellence and perseverance. The implications of Maya's performance rippled through the crowd. The officers, forced to confront the reality of their own biases, began to understand the depth of her preparation and the strength of her character. The soldiers who had gathered to watch found themselves inspired by her determination and skill, recognizing in her the qualities that define true leadership. The base, once a place where tradition and hierarchy ruled, now witnessed a moment of transformation as the actions of a 12-year-old girl challenged the very foundations of its culture. Maya's achievement was more than just a personal victory. It was a powerful statement about the dangers of underestimation and the importance of perseverance. Her success on the range became a symbol of what could be accomplished through hard work, discipline, and the refusal to be defined by others' expectations. The officers, humbled by the experience, were left to reflect on the lessons they had learned, while Maya stood as a beacon of hope and possibility for all who witnessed her triumph. The demonstration at the shooting range marked a turning point, not only for Maya but for everyone present. The story of her performance would spread throughout the base and beyond, inspiring others to challenge their own limitations and to recognize the potential in those who are too often overlooked. In the aftermath of the challenge, the legacy of Maya Johnson and her father would live on, a testament to the enduring power of courage, skill, and unwavering resolve. The aftermath of Maya's extraordinary performance at the shooting range sent shockwaves through Fort Braxton. The officers, who had gathered with the expectation of witnessing a child's humiliation, now found themselves grappling with disbelief and awe. The tight cluster of bullet holes at the center of the target was undeniable proof of a skill level that surpassed even the most seasoned marksman on the base. The silence that followed her final shot was heavy, filled with the weight of shattered assumptions and the dawning realization that something remarkable had just occurred. One by one, the officers approached the target, each hoping to find some flaw or trick that could explain what they had seen. Instead, they were confronted with the irrefutable evidence of Maya's talent. The grouping of the shots was so precise that it appeared almost impossible, a feat that would have been impressive for any adult, let alone a 12-year-old girl. The initial skepticism gave way to a grudging respect, as the reality of Maya's achievement became impossible to ignore. Sergeant Rodriguez, the base's shooting instructor, was the first to voice what many were beginning to feel. He spoke with genuine admiration, declaring that Maya's father would have been the proudest man alive to witness his daughter's accomplishment. His words resonated with the crowd, transforming the atmosphere from one of mockery to one of reverence. The officers, who had so recently dismissed Maya as an interloper, now found themselves in the presence of someone who had redefined their understanding of excellence. Colonel Steele, who had orchestrated the challenge with the intention of putting Maya in her place, was left visibly shaken. The confidence and authority he had wielded so easily now seemed hollow in the face of Maya's quiet dignity. The lesson he had intended to teach had been turned on its head, and he was forced to confront the reality of his own prejudice. The humiliation he had planned for Maya had become his own, witnessed by a growing crowd of soldiers and officers who would not soon forget what they had seen. Maya's response to the attention was marked by humility and grace. She explained that her father had always taught her that respect was earned through actions, not words. When faced with doubt or discrimination, he had advised her to let her abilities speak for themselves. Her performance on the range was not just a demonstration of skill, but a fulfillment of a promise she had made to honor his memory. The officers, many of whom had never considered the impact of their words and actions, were left to reflect on the power of perseverance and the importance of judging others by their character and abilities rather than by superficial traits. The impact of Maya's achievement extended far beyond the shooting range. News of her performance spread quickly throughout the base, inspiring conversations about talent, opportunity, and the dangers of underestimation. Soldiers who had witnessed the event shared their accounts with colleagues, and soon the story reached the highest levels of command. Maya's name became synonymous with determination and excellence, and her example was held up as a model for others to follow. The officers who had participated in the mockery faced a reckoning of their own. Their actions were scrutinized by their peers and superiors, and many were forced to confront the biases that had shaped their behavior. Some issued apologies, while others struggled to come to terms with the shift in perception that Maya's success had triggered. The base, once a place where tradition and hierarchy often overshadowed merit, began to change in subtle but significant ways. Maya's relationship with Sergeant Rodriguez deepened in the wake of her achievement. He became a mentor and advocate, helping her navigate the new opportunities that arose as a result of her performance. Together, they worked to create training programs for other young people on the base, with a focus on identifying and nurturing hidden talent. Maya's story became a source of inspiration for children from all backgrounds, proving that excellence could emerge in the most unexpected places. The legacy of Maya's demonstration was cemented when the shooting range was renamed in honor of her father, Sergeant David Johnson. A bronze plaque was installed, telling the story of the day a young girl shattered records and prejudices alike. The range became a symbol of possibility, a place where anyone with a drive and determination to succeed could find support and encouragement. Maya's journey was far from over, but her triumph at the shooting range marked a turning point not only in her own life, but in the culture of Fort Braxton. Her example challenged others to look beyond appearances and to recognize the potential in those who might otherwise be overlooked. The officers, soldiers, and families who witnessed her achievement carried a memory with them, a reminder that true greatness is measured not by rank or reputation, but by the courage to rise above doubt and prove oneself through action. 6 months after Maya's record-shattering performance, the culture at Fort Braxton had undergone a profound transformation. The story of the 12-year-old girl who had silenced a room full of doubters and broken every expectation had become legend, not just within the base, but across the military community. Maya's name was now spoken with respect and admiration, her journey serving as a beacon for those who had ever been underestimated or dismissed. Recognition for Maya's achievement came swiftly and decisively. She was awarded a gold badge, officially naming her a junior precision marksman instructor under the Army's Exceptional Talent Program. At just 13, she became the youngest person in American military history to receive such an honor. Her days were now filled with a unique blend of regular schoolwork and advanced marksmanship training, as the Pentagon created a special program to nurture her rare abilities. Elite universities and military academies began to compete for her future, offering scholarships and opportunities that had once seemed unimaginable. The impact of Maya's story extended far beyond her own accomplishments. The video of her demonstration, discreetly recorded by soldiers at the range, went viral within days. Headlines around the world celebrated her as the girl who had humbled a prejudiced colonel and inspired millions. Messages poured in from children and families, especially from marginalized communities, who saw in Maya a symbol of hope and possibility. Letters arrived from young girls who had never before considered a future in the military or competitive sports, now emboldened to pursue their dreams. The consequences for those who had tried to belittle Maya were equally significant. Colonel Steele, once a figure of authority and pride, faced a formal investigation that uncovered a pattern of discriminatory behavior. Testimonies from other military families revealed similar stories of humiliation and bias. The evidence led to Steele's demotion and transfer to a remote administrative post, stripping him of the honors and influence he had once enjoyed. His career, once destined for a celebrated retirement, ended in quiet disgrace. Major Thompson and Captain Williams, who had joined in the mockery, received official reprimands and were required to complete intensive training on diversity and respect. Their reputations never fully recovered, serving as a cautionary tale for others in positions of power. The base itself became a model for change. Zero-tolerance policies for discrimination were implemented, and new talent identification programs were launched in underserved communities. The shooting range, now renamed the David Johnson Shooting Range, stood as a permanent tribute to Maya's father and the legacy he had passed on to his daughter. A bronze plaque at the entrance told the story of the day Maya rewrote the rules, reminding all who entered that greatness could come from the most unexpected places. Maya's influence continued to grow as she took on the role of mentor and instructor for new recruits. Her approach was marked by patience, encouragement, and a deep understanding of what it meant to be doubted. Young soldiers listened to her with respect, eager to learn from someone who had proven herself not just through words, but through action. Sergeant Rodriguez, now promoted for his exemplary conduct, became her official mentor, guiding her as she balanced her new responsibilities with her ongoing education. The story of Maya Johnson became a staple in leadership training sessions, used as a powerful example of how prejudice can blind even the most experienced leaders to extraordinary potential. Her journey was cited in military publications, academic journals, and motivational speeches, inspiring a new generation to challenge their own assumptions and to look for talent in every corner. Maya's personal life flourished alongside her public achievements. She continued to visit her father's grave every Saturday, sharing her latest accomplishments and the barriers she had overcome. The tears of grief that once marked these visits were replaced by words of pride and gratitude. She spoke of the young recruits she was training, the letters she received from inspired children, and the changes she had helped bring about at Fort Braxton. The transformation of the base was most evident in the attitudes of its people. Soldiers and officers who once dismissed Maya now sought her advice and guidance. Children from all backgrounds felt welcome at a range, encouraged to pursue excellence regardless of their starting point. The story of Maya's triumph became a rallying cry for fairness, respect, and a relentless pursuit of one's potential. In interviews, Maya was often asked if she harbored resentment toward those who had tried to humiliate her. Her answer reflected a wisdom beyond her years. She credited her greatest opponents with giving her the opportunity to prove herself, turning adversity into the fuel for her success. Her philosophy was simple. The best revenge was not to destroy those who doubted her, but to achieve so much that her accomplishments could not be ignored. Maya Johnson's legacy was not just in the records she broke or the honors she received, but in the lives she touched and the culture she helped transform. Her story stood as a testament to the power of resilience, the importance of character, and the enduring truth that greatness knows no boundaries of age, gender, or background. Maya Johnson's journey didn't just change the rules at Fort Braxton. It inspired a movement, proving that greatness can come from the most unexpected places. Her story is a reminder that no one should ever be underestimated, and that the best revenge is to rise so high. Your achievements speak for themselves. If this story moved you, hit the like button, share it with someone who needs a boost of inspiration, and subscribe to our channel for more real-life stories of courage, justice, and unstoppable determination. What would you do if the world doubted you? Let us know in the comments below.